everybody. Welcome to Clown-versations. Today, I'm talking to a well-being engineer and a very funny man. It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clown-versation. All right. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. It's nearly the weekend time. What are you doing with your lives this weekend? What have you been doing recently? What's going on? How are you feeling? I'd love to know. Jump into the chat and say hi. My name is Barnaby, and I am the founder of Clown Spirit, where we take the power of clowning and we use it to bring lightness and joy and connection to you and to everybody around you, because that's what clowning is all about. I'm so happy that you could join us today for this very special Clown-versation with Indy, RISHI, SINGH, who is not technically a clown. Well, I might ask him that question when he comes on. Do you think of yourself as a clown? You know, he doesn't publicly call himself a clown, but in some ways, maybe he is. And that's kind of the point. Sometimes in Clown-versations, I talk to people who, you know, are recognized as clowns. That's kind of what they do in the world. But I also think it's really important to talk to people who are bringing the clown spirit into the world, but in different ways that go by different names. And I think Indy fits really, really well into this category. He, as I mentioned, he's a funny guy, but he's also very interested in laughter and the health benefits, the benefits to the immune system, to our psychology, to our well-being, to our general state of being. And therefore, by extension, you know, the benefits that it can bring to the world. And not just laughter, but play and humor and lightness. And I think a lot of aspects that could be identified under that umbrella of clown. And the reason that this is so important to me from the clown spirit perspective is, you know, the benefits go way beyond what we maybe traditionally think of as associated with clown. So let's make those connections to people working, you know, in healthcare, in well-being, in spirituality, in all kinds of different modalities that are all about trying to bring that positive change and transformation to the world. Let's bring clowning into that conversation, and let's bring those people into clowning as well. So it has all kinds of multiple benefits. It's a win-win situation. So hopefully RISHI, Indy, RISHI, SINGH is somewhere, and he's going to join us very soon. Let's see. Indy. I can hear something, you guys.
Hello? Is anyone
Hello.
home?
Hi. Who's there? Who's there?
Knock, knock.
Yeah, come in, Mr. What's your name?
I forgot.
You forgot your name.
Who am I? Why am I?
You're a feathered friend with a big beak.
Hold on, this is my COVID mask. I'm gonna take off my COVID mask. You know, it was a pandemic, so I had to get a COVID mask to protect myself from humans. So am I safe? And is this a safe space? Can I take off my COVID mask?
Yeah, we're not going to eat you here. We're very safe.
It's very safe. Okay, good. Okay, good. I can take off my. All right, good. Whew, I feel safe. I feel safe. Barnaby, what's up, brother?
Hey, Indy. How are you doing?
I am. I'm activated. I feel very activated. I feel there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of systemic imbalance. There's a lot of stuckness. There's a lot of ritual and bureaucracy that is causing way more harm. You know, and so I feel like I'm charged up. Like the arrow is very sharpened and clear, and it's ready to be shot. And it is shooting at this point.
That's so interesting. So the bureaucratic ritual, bureaucracy and ritual, because we normally think of ritual as like a positive thing, but you're talking about a different kind of ritual.
I mean, bureaucracy is one of the most potent forms of ritual. We think it's always being run with the best intentions, but when it's not run with the best intentions, you end up with genocides.
Yeah. And that's a good reason to feel charged.
I mean, I wonder too, this is a great conversation, because when is the clown spirit, the trickster spirit? I mean, I guess unfortunately, clowns in the modern era are kind of are associated with the white face and the red nose, and that's the Western perspective. But that was created as a commodification of the trickster spirit, right? It was created for the circus. It was hobofied, right? Like, oh, poor people are the clown, and we're gonna laugh at the poor people. But really, in any culture in history all over the world, the trickster spirit actually predates the clown, right? Would I not say?
Oh yeah.
And what does the trickster spirit do? Like, what's the point of the trickster archetype? What's the point of the trickster in mythology? Why does that exist?
Yeah, that's a great question. Should we riff on that question a little bit?
I would say so. I want to hear from people, but I want to hear from you too, Barnaby, and me too. Wait, hold on. Who's speaking?
Yeah, who's asking the questions here?
Wait, hold on 1 second. Hold on. What's going on here? Who's doing the interview? Are you doing the interview? What's going on here?
I was just saying to you before we started this, Indy, that I was watching you give a presentation to a whole group full of room full of people, hundreds of people, and it was about the benefits, the health benefits of laughter, and it was full of science and information and fascinating. I'm sure you could give us like a little summary of it better than I could. But the thing that was remarkable is that how funny you are. Like, you were up on stage just making people laugh for like an hour and a half. It was fantastic.
Actually, what you didn't see behind the scenes was I had some nitrous oxide that was shooting into the room before everybody came in. So that's the key. If you ever need any like secrets, that's the secret. I'm telling it to you. Open secret.
The funny part is you said that at the beginning of the presentation. You mentioned that word, nitrous oxide, and then I think that put the thought into people's minds, and then it was like the placebo, right? Like, we believe it. There's nitrous oxide in the room. We're gonna, maybe that's the dentist's little secret, right? They should just say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to give you some nitrous oxide here. Here's some laughing gas. Enjoy."
Maybe we got to plant these seeds. We don't even need to do the physical thing. It might be beneficial. I mean, and also, to kind of denote the word and the proper like scientific language of what I talk about is the concept of psychoneuroimmunology. I know, like, say that 10 times fast.
Okay. I can't even say it once.
Psychoneuroimmunology.
Psychoneuroimmunology.
There you go. And when you say it 3 times fast, the psychoneuroimmunology ghost or Beetlejuice shows up and is like the clown of psychoneuroimmunology shows up.
Or the Hindu god that's behind you right now shows up.
Maybe, possibly. I mean, psychoneuroimmunology basically is a science and the study and the understanding that our psychology and how we use our psychology produces the immune system results in our body. So like not the opposite way around, but like actually how we use our mind and how we cultivate our mind actually has secondary and tertiary effects on our immune system, which then affects, your cancer reduction, your ability to be resilient against illness, colds, viruses, parasites, fungi, we name it, or cold, when it gets really cold or really hot, like or inflammation. So your psychology affects that first and foremost.
Yeah. So it's like mind control, your ability to control your own health through your mind is one piece of it. And then what tools do we have to affect our mind in order to bring about that change?
Totally. Yep.
And you mentioned, in that presentation that laughter is a big tool, a very powerful one, and that only 20% of laughter is caused by humor. So this is interesting to me, right? Because clowns typically, not necessarily, depending who you talk to, it's not necessarily the primary goal of clown, but a lot of clowns are about humor, about making people laugh. But you're saying there's a lot of other ways in which laughter happens, a lot of other causes of laughter.
I think it was probably bureaucrats who paid for that funded that research. So maybe if clowns funded that research, it'd be maybe 80%. You know, like we have to watch out who's paying for the research, right? Who's funding the research?
Well, I was going to ask you, where did you get it?
Or it was, like I said, it was probably bureaucrats who don't laugh much. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important to just recognize. I mean, I certainly think this is why it's important for there to be a functioning working class of clowns, or people who are taking on that responsibility to produce humor, especially in a society where there's not enough laughter, especially when we consider how incredibly healing laughter is, how actually regenerative laughter is, how powerful it is for our immune system, for our cardiovascular system, our social systems. Laughter benefits all of those things when it's done in the right context, right? We're not laughing at people, but we're laughing with each other. It's really powerful, right?
Let's dive into that a little, because you just previously mentioned, this commodification of the trickster spirit in the white-faced clown and so on, which I understand what you're talking about there.
Yeah, where's the brown-faced clowns? What the heck? Why is it gotta be white-faced? Why did it kind of brown-face? I'm just kidding. That's terrible.
I mean, without getting too serious, it is serious. Like, there is a kind of level of actual racism and oppression that rides alongside the history of the clown, which is being exposed and talked about more and more, which is really good. How power systems are integrated with everything, right? And clown being one of those things. Blackface minstrelsy is part of the history of clowning, for example, and that's very much making fun of oppressed people. And yes, hobo clowning, making fun of poor people, but it's not that simple, because of course there's also the appropriation of those images and that humor by the oppressed groups as a way of fighting back in some cases and just surviving in other cases. So maybe that's more authentic to the trickster spirit, where it's actually about, because tricksters, in my understanding anyway, are kind of these liminal beings that travel and mediate between the divine and the earthly. And the clown captures that in a sort of physical embodied form by being a mediator, often between the highly ritualized space of like some kind of dance or theater production or whatever it is, some big out spectacle, and mediating between that and the audience.
Right.
So clowns can like shift backwards and forwards, and they can pretend to be part of the audience, and they're not fully part of the big spectacle, and they can make fun of the big spectacle. So they have this kind of ability to shape shift and move back and forth. So that's where I see the clown, whether it's in the circus or wherever, as kind of embodying that trickster spirit.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. I mean, I feel, as you were bringing that up, I think it's important to recognize it is a sacred responsibility, right? Like being in the position to cultivate this relationship between the divine and the human, right? Along with recognizing that sacred responsibility comes with an understanding of why is that energy needed? Why do we need a trickster energy? Why do we need a wise fool? Why do we need these kind of archaic energies? And when does it show up? Like, I mean, if you just like study the trickster spirit through any mythology, like most mythologies around the world, when you study it, you see the trickster actually, even like Krishna is a trickster, right? Actually, Krishna is like one of the most incredible examples from the Vedas of a trickster. Krishna was doing his trickster energy during a war. He was like imposing trickster energy during war time, in the sense of creating balance and justice and righteousness and supporting righteousness. Trickster energies around the world, and like indigenous communities, the trickster energy helps move the resources when the resources are being blocked by a despot or a tyrant and it's being hoarded. The trickster energy comes in to be able to distribute. When there's great hunger, right, and there's like a lot of hunger, then the trickster energy comes and feeds the people and spreads the wealth for the people, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to start recognizing also that sacred responsibility, because also at the same time, Barnaby, we're seeing a lot of comedians become very popular in our society right now, and they're supposed to be embodying that sacred responsibility, but they're also hoarding resources, and they're not making the movement to distribute resources and to cultivate, that kind of transition for our society.
Yeah, I love that. Do you feel that do you embody the trickster spirit? And the COVID mask, which is so brilliant, by the way. I've never thought of that COVID mask, and that crow is a trickster.
I mean, penultimate trickster and an archetype of transformation, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm wary, Barnaby, about saying I embody that, because when you take on these energies that are like sometimes beyond, interdimensional energies, it's you better be careful, right? What you call in. And I don't want to claim at all that I embody that spirit or energy. However, at this point, when I go to like a political meeting, or I go to a conference, or I go to places, when I go into bureaucratic spaces, I am actually going in with the intention to shake things up, because it's not working. Like, people are not being cared for. People are not being supported. There's a lot of scapegoating, which is really dangerous in our society, right? When there's scapegoating, when there's like projection, when there is like hoarding and there's scarcity mindset, right? People suffer at a grand scale when it shouldn't be happening, because we have money, we have resources to take care of people. We have ingenuity, innovation to take care of people, but it's not happening. So for me, I'm just going in with the intention to honor that energy that shifts the energy, that moves things, so that we can get to a place of well-being, so that we can get to a place of harmony and justice, right? Because right now that's not happening. It's not normal. It should be normal. Justice should be normal, but it's not happening. So for me, it's like, how can I show up, honor that spirit, not claim it, but just honor it, because it's not being honored. There is no sacred place for the trickster. And by the way, in cultures and communities around the world where the society is healthy, where the women and children are taken care of, where the elders are taken care of, they actually ritualize the trickster into the space. They actually allow it, because the trickster comes in and questions the rituals that are unhealthy, questions the people who are toxic, the power that's toxic, right? I mean, we've seen that in history. The jesters, right, would question the leaders, right? And there was actually a space for that. The good leaders created space for the jester to be able to question them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this. So you feel like, sounds like you honor the trickster spirit without needing to state that you embody it. I mean, you don't need to be it. You don't need to be a trickster, but you can honor that spirit.
I can honor that spirit, and also recognize, is it not being honored in this space? To be able to go into a space, and is there, have you ever been to a government meeting, Barnaby? Any sort of government meeting?
I mean, maybe when I was a lot younger, not recently.
Have you heard laughter in those government meetings?
Not a lot, no.
But that's such a human thing. Like, we literally are smarter when we laugh. We literally have more neuroplasticity when we laugh. Like, we are.
Although I would say the British House of Commons, they actually do laugh quite a lot, and but it's not always nice.
No.
It's not always nice laughter, actually. More often, it's like jokes that politicians make at the expense of the opposite side, and it makes everyone on that side laugh, because it's a joke, a ridicule of somebody else. So there is, everything has ambivalence, right? Laughter is not always good.
I mean, it's a powerful instrument. It can be used for incredible good, and it can also be used for incredible harm. Just like with any tool, right? All tools can be supportive or destructive.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about, this is a great conversation. I'd like to just know a little bit about you, though. So can we go back to that, I don't know, moment in your life or process that brought you to what you do today? Where did it begin?
I mean, it's hard. It's always hard to contextualize this stuff. I mean, something I always hear from my family is that when I was a baby, I was super laughing all the time. Like, I was always super jovial. I was always a trickster. Like, my mom would say, or my family would always say, like, I would disappear. And then when I would appear, I'd be like laughing and giggling. And then they would find my poop, like behind the couch or something. Like, I would always leave my poop in secret spots, all over the place. So I think as a baby, I already was inherently, tricky, or my brother used to say rishy fishy, I always fishy rishy. So I think I just already had that archetype kind of playing in my consciousness. And I grew up reading a lot of books, like a lot of fiction, nonfiction. And I just noticed in a lot of our storytelling, a lot of our mythology, a lot of books, the trickster, the clown, that spirit is so important in storytelling. So it's always resonated with me. It feels good to be like, hey, to resonate with that character that kind of shakes things up. The mercurial character, Mercurius, right? If you want to know your Shakespeare. But also I feel, my dad's really funny, right? And he's working class. My mom and dad were like working class folks, right? But I noticed how my dad used laughter to deal with the challenges he faced as an immigrant, a working class immigrant in America and Canada. And I noticed how he used laughter to kind of shift energies. My mom, so amazingly spiritual. She's so awesome. She's a total saint. But she also uses laughter so much to deal with, hypocrisy and the way that people harm each other and the way that, gossip happens and how she would never gossip. My mom has never gossiped about anybody, but she would use laughter to deflect gossip when people were trying to pull her into it. Right. So I've seen that with my mom. And I think I have to give context to my family, in the Sikhi tradition where I come from. So I got my turban on. There's a language we have called Chardi Kala, right? This type of being where we are joyfully optimistic, even if people are harming us, even if there's oppressors that are taking away our rights and our resources. Literally, if they're torturing us, the most powerful thing we have is to be joyfully optimistic. That's like a tool, a weapon of liberation, a weapon of resistance. Actually, in our culture, is to be Chardi Kala, to be joyfully optimistic, joyfully resilient, right? And I think so for me, that's
the word, Indy. Chardikula?
Chardikala.
Chardikala.
Yep.
Beautiful.
So, I think all of those contexts kind of give me the context of who and why I am. Although I will say in my life, I went to medical school. I burned out in medical school because there's no space for that kind of joyful optimism, especially when you're dealing with like chronic illnesses and incurable diseases, which are curable, but we don't really pay attention to how they're curable, right? Chronic illnesses that are curable, but we don't pay attention to how they're curable, right? Or chronic illnesses can be remediated or regenerated. And so I think there's a really, for me in medicine, I noticed that there wasn't this space for Chardikala. And then when I went into the financial industry, I noticed there isn't space for Chardikala. Then when I went to education, I was like, wow, there's no space for like Chardikala. When I went into like the, whatever industry, I've been into, oh my gosh, farming industry, right? And food systems, there isn't space for Chardikala. Every space is so cynical. Every space is so destructive. Every space, the power systems are so corrupt. People at the top are not connected to the workers, right? So I keep seeing this pattern, right? Of like, destructive society. And so for me at this point, it's like, how do I bring Chardikala into these spaces? How do I bring joyful resilience, joyful problem solving, joyful possibility into these spaces? And also I noticed too, Barnaby, the more that I laugh, the more that I am joyfully resilient, the smarter and the more information I can not just take in, but I can process and systemize and integrate. And I think one of the things that I think, Barnaby, you could probably, I would love to hear your feedback on this, but I feel like I'm way smarter because I'm funny. Like I'm way more intelligent because I can laugh at things instead of getting bogged down by it or getting like frustrated and getting angry and like so stuck in the anger or so stuck in the sadness or so stuck in the depression that I can't do anything.
I love that. Yeah, there's a very well-known clown teacher called Avner Eisenberg, or Avner the Eccentric. Do you know him?
No, let me look this up. Avner.
He's based out of Maine. In Maine, and he has a sort of a concept which is when you clowning is all about problem solving, right? And when clowns come across a problem, the reaction should be, interesting.
Or you could twirl your mustache.
Interesting. Right? Like it's a fun, it's a kind of attitude of like curiosity, essentially. Right? Oh, a problem. Oh, interesting. And of course, you know, clowns try lots of solutions and lots of them maybe don't work, but usually they find a solution in the end that works, but often not in the way you would expect or predict. So there's this kind of delightful surprise.
Yep.
Right? The clown surprises themselves and surprises the audience with something that just is out of the box, out of the, you know, it's this kind of magical, not magical, but like, yeah, delightful clown thinking, we could call it clown thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's what you're saying is really important to contextualize. Like, if you know, I think Einstein said it right. You can't solve a problem by the same thinking that created the problem, right? And yet, when you go out of the box, that's really uncomfortable, right? Not many people have that. Not many people have the bandwidth to go out of the box, right? And so for the ability to go out of the box, there's got to be there's a tension, a level of tension of recognizing you're not thinking like everybody else. And it helps to be silly when you're doing that, because it gives more permission, right, to go out of the box. And it allows other people to go out of the box. Like you saw from that presentation I did at WIC at that conference, like I can get scientists to go out of the box when we're practicing laughter. You know, I can get like suits, like, you know, the corporate suits, to go out of the box and be silly when we are leaning in to laughter and leaning into a silliness.
So my question there is, you know, then yeah, they can be silly when you give them the right kind of context to be silly, but how, you know, is that incorporated back into the system? Like, how are those scientists then making choices on a day-to-day basis based on that principle, or are they kind of going back to safety? And if not, if they are, how do we encourage or create the desire and the safety for people to go outside the box on a more regular basis and sort of commit to that, instead of just, you know, one day of silliness and then back to normal?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're sharing is culture, right? It's planting the seeds for culture, right? And it's funny because, you know, as I was preparing for our conversation, I was like diving into, you know, re-diving into the research of the trickster archetype and clown spirit and the fool, and I was diving in, and trickster is the archetype of the trickster, and even is kind of embryonic. It's a seed character, right? Even like the Kokopelli, right, goes and spreads seeds, right? So the trickster energy spreads seeds around, but those seeds are not just seeds, like literally sometimes it's seeds, like seeds for plants and vegetables and fruits, but sometimes the seeds are for culture. And a trickster will come from one place, bring a culture from another place to another place, or maybe shift the culture so the culture becomes better for children, becomes better for elders, becomes better for women. And usually that's by creating a social shift of culture where laughter and play are more permissible, right? And by the way, look around the world where laughter and play is not permissible. How are those societies? How are people treated? What's the space for just being abundant and healthy and happy, right? But I want to go back to something you're saying. So the shift of the culture. So to answer that question in relativity to the work that I do, or the play the work play, the flow, whatever the heck I'm doing, I don't even know what I'm doing. Is kind of is planting the seeds for culture. If it's in a corporation, if it's in a community, wherever it is, an organization, wherever it is, a conference, whatever it is, it's planting the seeds that people need to go and try this out in their community. If it's at their company, to keep practicing, right? Keep playing with it in their own way. Take it into their family. And it's funny because I get emails, I get like letters and emails all the time, Barnaby, from people like years later. They're like, oh my God, we've been practicing this for years and it's been so helpful. Or like, I brought this home to my family and my husband and I are using this and it's really helped our relationship. But it was in a corporate space, but then people bring it home, right, to their family. So I think for me, it's really about planting the seeds so that people practice it in their own ways. And I'm very, very hesitant and cautious not to like create a certification program or like some sort of like ministry, right? Where like, once again, it's like the problem with spirituality and religions, right? Like why does this practice of laughter, this practice of joy, this practice of silliness, why does it have to go through somebody? Like, why does it have to, like, why do you have to like go through somebody to get it? You know, to me, that's always when things start to become, when things get commodified and certified, something happens, right? It stops being authentic.
Yeah. So how do you stop it becoming commodified? Because presumably as a practitioner and as a professional, on some level, you have to kind of market yourself and get paid and stuff. How do you manage that balance?
I mean, I feel like it's good to have people in my life who check me, like specifically have people in my life who can make sure if my ego is getting out of order, or if I'm like I honor them to check me, right? Whether they're my mentors, my friends, my colleagues, my students, right? The other side of it is that I'm not interested in making what I share a profession. Instead, I am more interested in creating the systemic transformation where people like us and people who actually cultivate healthiness in communities and well-being in communities can actually be supported by the community. That doesn't exist right now. Like, we don't have that. It's not, like, it's not something that is normal, where like a well-being engineer can be supported in the community. Even nurses and doctors are not healthy themselves, right? So like, we don't have a culture of care. So like, for that to actually be something normalized is something I really care about, right? Where our economic system is care-based. Like, so I want to shift that rather than like trying to get myself paid. That's not important to me. I'm more interested in shifting the culture altogether so that people who care about the well-being of others can be cared for. People who are farmers and farm workers can be cared for. People who are healers can be cared for. People who are teachers can be cared for. Like, I want to shift that rather than focusing on me being like an influencer and getting like, I'm totally not interested in that. In fact, that's probably why I haven't spread around the world or whatever. I'm not like speaking at like conferences. Actually, I speak only at where I go and speak at is more where there can be a shift in systems, actually, so it can spread into communities that need it.
It's almost though, there's a tension, right? I feel this with Clown Spirit, for example. Like, if I want this to have more impact, I kind of have to play the game of, being an influencer sometimes, like having a successful YouTube channel, being out there on Facebook, and I have to build something that's sort of recognizable and business, and uses a kind of business model and stuff, social media. But I don't want to do that because it's also really antithetical to the clown spirit. So it's really, sometimes there's a lot of dilemma there, tension.
There's a lot of tension. And I think that goes back to like, are we in a society that respects and honors the trickster energy, that honors well-being, that honors care, right? And care for the systems that we need, right? We need food systems. We need healthy care systems, right? We need healthy housing systems. Like, we need these basic things, and they're not being met. And so for me, it's like, let me put my all the knowledge and experience I'm gaining from the other things I'm doing, and then how I show up as this. Yeah. And it's funny that I love that you said earlier that like, I'm not like officially a clown, right? I definitely got a clown nose. I got that certification. Nice. But I don't show up like a clown like that, because we got to remember, like, in the Indian tradition, in the Vedic traditions, right? There was no clown with a red nose, right? The clown energy actually shows up in the Indian traditions as like the Krishna energy of like shifting the energy into spaces, right? Actually, like the yoga perspective of like stretching into discomfort, and stretching and breathing into discomfort. That's how the trickster shows up in culture, in our culture. And in our culture, we dance. When the trickster shows up, when we dance, and we get other people to dance, and it shows. So we don't wear the makeup, but we show up in our spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important, that we don't think of clown as some, or even the word or the image of with the red nose, as being this universal thing. But there is some kind of essence there that you do see, right? Crossing
cultures. I mean, I would say too, maybe this is because like everybody who I know who is actually a red-nosed clown that studied it and done the university, done the processing. Yeah. Everyone I know is multi-talented. Like, I've yet to meet a real clown that's like just does one thing. Like, they're really good at many things, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because like Krishna, who's like the penultimate clown or trickster of Indian philosophy and mythology, and maybe a real person in history. Like, he is very famous for being multi-talented with 108 skills, like highly developed skills. So in a way, I think this is something really important that, I'm glad we're talking about this, because I wonder if anybody has talked about this, that being multi-dimensional, multi-potential, actually not the multi-dimensional, multi-potential, neurodivergent and multi-potential is actually like one of the important aspects of trickster, clowns, sacred clowning, sacred trickster. I think it's really important to be able to understand and value that that's a big part of it, is being multi-skilled, multi-talented, multi-dimensional.
Yeah. And as you just mentioned, the word neurodivergence or multi, I don't know what.
Multi-potential.
Multi-potential, but neurodivergence has a close relationship to clowning. I'm really conscious of that. I think people who are neurodivergent feel attraction to clowning.
Yep.
There's something where they feel like they've found something that I don't know, acknowledges the fullness of who they are. And it might be partly to do with this diversity, but also to do with the kind of the valuing of otherness, or the valuing of non-traditional, non-conventional, right?
Totally.
All kinds of things. But I also think that there's I would never describe myself as neurodivergent. I was kind of really mainstream in some ways. And when I discovered clowning, it was like, oh, the value of clowning for me is to kind of take me into that other realm. Right. Because I'm very like monovision and very focused and very high achiever, right? and quite serious and an academic. And so for me, it's like, no, clowning gives me access to this richness that's beyond that. So both ways, I feel like clown, it kind of opens up our perspective. I just want to say before we move on, Indy, that to the people watching, if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to throw into the conversation, there's stuff going on in the chat already, which is amazing. But if you have any specific questions for Indy, or you want to kind of comment on, something we're saying, like maybe you have a perspective on this question of multi-dimensionality or neurodivergency, or clowns having this multitude of abilities and talents and interests. Multimodal, Eric says. I like that.
Multimodal, I love that.
And I can say that one, so that's good. Thanks, Eric.
I mean, Barnaby, I would like to also denote this. I mean, this is something we talked about slightly when we were, in the preparation of this, and I have to bring this into awareness, because one of my favorite, gurus from the Sikh tradition is Guru Nanak, right? And a lot of people don't know about Guru Nanak. He's a philosopher and from the late 1400s, early 1500s, and he is one of the most traveled people on planet Earth on foot. So he's traveled on foot the most. I think first or second in the world in history. And one of the things that was really interesting about him that makes me always be because we have his poetry, we have his music, right? He was a musician, he was a poet, he was an artist, but a lot of his poetry and his art was very kind of paradoxical and humorous, right? And he traveled to places around the world where he was challenging the religious paradigms that were really kind of like we talked about earlier, the bureaucratic rituals that were really harmful, or the religious rituals that were harmful, right? Including burning of widows, right? But there's all these rituals from different Hindu and Muslim and different traditions, right? And he questioned those. He went to those places, and he went to the places where everybody was Muslim or everybody was Hindu, and he challenged people. Wow. And he didn't get killed. So how do you go to a place, challenge people, and not get killed? I think we need to start thinking about saints that were actually able to shift societies, that were able to shift systems. We need to start thinking of them as being sacred clowns and jesters and tricksters, and that they were overtly funny. There's no way they survived if they weren't funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, I just can't, I can't, even Jesus, like, I can't imagine people gaining momentum by being serious when the system itself is serious.
Yeah. This is super provocative. There's something that's coming up for me around going back to something you said earlier about silliness and the courage or the resilience that it takes to be silly, you know, in a, I don't know, in a consistent way, or to kind of push that boundary. And it reminds me of something about, you know, this idea of a zone or a comfort zone that we have, and what it means to step outside the comfort zone. Like, we keep ourselves, I'm conscious of this. Like, I like to keep myself very safe and comfortable, and it's kind of super scary to step outside that. So what's your approach here? Do you think more about like forcing it by pushing yourself outside the comfort zone and then acclimatizing to that? Or is it about building resilience to grow your comfort zone so that you can do more things within and still feel comfortable? Or is that just am I just inventing unnecessary academic concepts? I'm gonna
get all biblical here, okay? One of my favorite sentences, or like parts of the Bible that I feel is like awesome, is if you want to enter heaven, be like a child. And for me, as also, you know, going into education, you know, after I left medical school, that was a huge wake-up call, because my effectiveness as a teacher, when I was working with high school students, middle schoolers, and to this day, I still volunteer and teach, and even bring high schoolers and middle schoolers to work on farms and to work on eco restoration projects. And I also do work with supporting youngsters to write novels and poetry and all kinds of stuff using creativity, imagination. What I notice is that when I am able to channel the inner child within myself, that just, you become silly. Like, it's not like you have to cross a bridge. Just being connected and in relationship with my inner child. And earlier you said, how did I get here? You know, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've not just suffered from situations, but I've also caused suffering. I've been the perpetuator of suffering of others, and I've also suffered myself from other people perpetuating suffering. My own growth as a human being has been healing my inner child. Because a lot of times when I cause suffering to other people is because my inner child was suffering and I was projecting it. So I think there is something about us tuning into our inner child, healing some of those, you know, issues, or maybe healing is not the right word, kind of integrating those shadows, right? So that we stop projecting the shadow, but we integrate the shadow, and then we can laugh at the shadow. We can laugh with the shadow within ourselves. And then the silliness becomes automatic. I'm just being a kid. And actually, it's funny because when it's so funny, like, it's easier for me to connect with kids, Barnaby. I never have to try to be with kids. Like, it's so easy, right? But with adults, I literally have to construct a bridge for adults to be connected to their inner child. And it's funny because when I do these group laughter exercises with people, I can tell, like, basically when I create the conditions we're all being silly, I can tell who's really sick, actually, mentally, because they're not able to laugh and be silly when everybody else is doing it. Like, that's the normal, right? And then there's the people who are really stuck. Oh my gosh. And then later on, I hear that they're actually one of the most toxic people in that culture or that community.
Interesting.
Or that family.
Eric says, Hotai the Buddha found enlightenment in the laughter of a child and followed it forever.
Whoa.
Hotai the Buddha. I don't know how to.
Whoa. That's powerful. Wow, that's powerful. I mean, it's also, you gotta think about it too. Like, in Indian traditions, Buddhist traditions, there's been gurus that are kids, you know? There's been children that are like gurus, and we appreciate and value their wisdom, even as a child. And I think we forget about them in the Western culture. We think kids are dumb. We think they're incompetent. You know, it's like, no, there's actually a lot of wisdom in the child, and in the innocence and the curiosity and the courage, actually, of a child. And I think when we talk about being silly, you know, even academics, right? We actually need more silliness in academics so that we can actually experiment with ideas that actually work. You know, like, academics is great. I'm an academic. However, you can also get caught in the institution, in the box, and you can become you can so get stuck in the box that you don't recognize that actually this box is causing harm to all the systems that we need, actually.
Yeah. This is super fascinating. There's another interesting comment here from somebody, Bardley Working. I don't know who what their name is, but I like it. Says there is a small modern reclaiming of hobo in the US by the financially disadvantaged and transient. 100-plus-year-old annual hobo convention in Iowa keeps lineage alive in true oral folk art tradition.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Something you just mentioned, Indy, that I want to just underline, because it was about the shadow and the integration of shadow and the ability then to laugh and to be silly.
Yep.
This is very much the kind of lineage of clowning that I stepped into when I first started clowning. This idea that we learn to face all directions of ourselves at the same time. And when we do that, we'll laugh at our own ridiculousness. So there's a process that I went through in learning to be a clown, which involved constructing 6 masks, and each of those represents a different facet. And you really go into dark places where you have to confront aspects of yourself that you don't want to, and learn to integrate it into your clown, and use it for people to be able to laugh at, and in order for that to happen, you have to learn to laugh at it too. Now, if we apply that to the world, right, this ability to be able to recognize and integrate one's own shadow as a kind of precursor for humanity facing its shadow and learning to integrate it. And where I get stuck a little bit, and this is maybe the academic in me, is like, wait a minute, what are the dots there? Because I get, if we do it for ourselves, it's doing it for everybody, for the world. But the dots seem interminable. The connection seems very difficult to see from our positionality in the world. Like, okay, I can work on myself, I can integrate my shadow, I can be more clowny, but oh shit, the world seems to just be getting darker. Okay, do I keep going? Where's the benefit? Where's the light?
I feel this is, one, I want to honor you, Barnaby, for creating this incredible space where folks like us can see each other and be in community with each other. I think community is immunity. And so it can't just be you, right, doing this analysis of yourself and cultivating this spirit, right? We got to do it together. We got to hold space for each other, because we're not always going to be on top of things, right? So it's really good. It's funny because one of the collectives I'm a part of a few different coalitions and collectives. They're all cooperatives, by the way. FYI, that's really helpful when you're part of cooperatives versus hierarchical systems. And one of them that we're involved with, we basically reimagine work, right? We do a lot of like projects where we build like compost systems for mutual aid farms, or we build a community garden for the community that doesn't have access to food, or we build eco toilets for projects that are doing eco restoration, right? And we basically make a festival out of it. And while we do the labor, while we do the work, we make jokes and we laugh and we like have a great time. And we're doing physical labor, digging holes, doing stuff, building, but we tell jokes and we laugh and we talk about our shadows and we talk about shit. While we're building eco toilets, we're talking about shit, right? And processing shit, and we process our shit. And I think even weeding, right? Like weeding, we can process shit with each other while we're weeding, right? And I think there's something about cultivating this spirit of laughing and working together, right? And laughing at our shadows and integrating those shadows together rather than individually, because we don't come from that. We for so long we've been in villages, and then now we're not in villages, and then we're suffering so much from all these mental health issues. And so I think it's important that we cultivate these communities to process things together, but not also get too caught up in the processing either. That we also have to do things together, because the doing also helps us integrate and process too. And we can also process while we do. Like we can do both, right? We can be a clown and build a compost system. And it's way more fun because now we've the whole community has something that's going to benefit the community and the ecology as well, right? So, and the compost, what a great metaphor, right? We can compost the things we no longer need, and it can turn it into gifts, right? And fruits and vegetables and herbs for our consciousness. So I think that's really important to think about how laughter and silliness and this spirit of the clown, this spirit of somebody said holy fool, right? How the holy fool is actually a composter of the things in society that we don't need anymore. Yeah. The things that are not supporting society to have longevity, right? It's like the holy fool is there to compost it, to create the art, the poetry, the music, what do they call the bard, right? To create the music, the lyrical genius that transmutes. The Rumi was a holy fool, right? Like creating that cultural tapestry that can compost those parts of society that we don't no longer need. Basically, we need that spirit to turn stupidity into sense, because when a society is causing so much harm, that's stupidity. But we need to turn that stupidity into sense. We need to turn chaos into order. We need to turn meaningfulness into meaning. But sometimes you got to be silly to do that stuff, because when you do it head on and you face it just head on really seriously, you literally can't go out of the box to create the shift that we need to get to.
Yeah, this is a beautiful. The composting metaphor is one that I use quite a lot.
Wait, are you shitting me, bro?
No, I do. And the butterfly as well works, right? It's like taking something that's ordered, like a recognizable vegetable or a piece of food or something, and then breaking it down, yes. Creating chaos.
Yes.
And in that moment, in the chrysalis or in the compost bin, it's like everything's being broken down and it's being turned into something that's not recognizable anymore. It's like it's chaotic, at least to our eyes. Within ecology itself, it's not chaotic. There's like a lot of subtle patterns within that. But then out of that chaos, we can create again. So, but we have to go through that. We have to go through the chaos to come out into something that we couldn't have planned otherwise. We couldn't have created using our logical kind of thought patterns.
Yep, exactly. And going back to what you shared earlier, it's like I joke about this all the time. I brought up this community. We're all educators and professionals that burned out, right? And so we created this collective to basically reimagine work, so we don't keep burning out doing work. Like what does it look like for us to do work that we need to do, whether it's healing work, building work, farming work, caregiving work, whatever it is. How do we not burn out, right? And I think laughter and joyful work is actually a super powerful tool that we have, right? And one of the things that we joke about is what if we're creating a secret society of clowns? We actually created a song and we've kind of iterated on the song, and I think we need to think about that. There's always been these secret societies, right? Even right now, maybe our world is being manipulated and controlled by different secret societies, right? Some are secret, not so secret anymore. Some are still secret, but they're called something else. I mean, secret societies are just clubs, right? There's different clubs. There's the Rotary Club. There's a Lions Club. There's clubs. They influence society literally in our face right there. There's Republican and Democrats, and you're in England, and there's clubs that are political clubs, right? But what if there was a club of clowns?
Well, I think there is. And there are.
And what if they were actually purposefully addressing systemic issues and systemic flaws? They were actually coming together to actually shift and compost the parts of our society that are stuck.
Yeah. I mean, that's my vision with the Clown Spirit Village, Indy, really, is that we're coming together to change the world through clowning. And I'm aware of other groups that exist around the world, who are doing different kinds of activism through clowning. There's a lot of work going on around that at the moment. So it's an actual real exciting time for clowning. There's a renaissance of the clown spirit happening right now.
Oh yeah, it's powerful. I think somebody said in the chat, the first rule of secret clown society is we don't talk about secret clown society.
Exactly, yeah. I found out this is M, and M says, would love to hear about all the holy fool adjacent folks documented. And one resource that I would point you to is my own podcast, on which I just interview so many holy fools. So it's a great place to go. And the podcast exists on YouTube, but also on my website. One that comes to mind that you may know of, Indy, is Manish Jain. Do you know Manish Jain?
Yeah, he's my brother from another mother. I love Manish. Yeah, so I'm a part of the Ecoversities Alliance as well, and we're working on Turtle Island, building Turtle Island ecoversities. So he's kind of been like, Indy, we need to get things going in Turtle Island. So I love Manish, and I think we need to integrate the clown. I mean, he and I both agree that when we reimagine education, we have to integrate the clown and the trickster into that education. It's really critical.
Yeah, we did have a Turtle Island Ecoversities gathering. I was at 2 years ago.
Oh shoot!
About a year and a half ago with Dan. Dan was there.
Oh cool.
The reason you're here, right, is because of that connection.
Yeah, and we hosted one this year.
Oh, did you? Where?
Yeah, in California.
Oh, awesome! How did it go?
It was amazing. Oh my gosh, we had incredible people. We also invited government folks and joined, and we went and did we did a few different exercises and workshops and play shop. We actually called them play shops. We had some indigenous folks join us, and it was just awesome. We talked about even economics, and we brought in like financial stuff, and we were just we kind of made this a very what is something multinodal. It was a very multinodal Ecoversities gathering.
How beautiful. And yeah, I mean, so Ecoversities, if people are listening and want to know more, there's a kind of general Ecoversities website, but that's also a portal to many smaller organizations, right? Ecoversities kind of brings together it's a network.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Somebody asked Turtle Island. Turtle Island is basically like all of North America. Looks like a turtle. If you think about like Canada, U.S., and Mexico, that's like the Turtle Island. And also I wanted to drop the question that was asked about other holy fools and content. I also recommend the Emerald. If you look up the Emerald podcast and Trickster, that's a great episode, incredible episode. It really is well produced. And it goes over the trickster, but it also goes over social justice in relevance. And also what happens culturally when we don't honor the trickster, when we don't honor the sacred clown, we end up with the sacred fool, we end up with the toxic dark fool who's like Trump in a lot of ways. If we think about people around the world who are causing a lot of the harm, it's a lot of times that it gets manipulated or flipped. In fact, it's funny because you even have that in Batman, right? You have the Joker, right? Who literally is a clown, right? But what's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's something about the dark, the horror clown, that has been very prevalent the last 10, 20 years. And I have a blog post addressing this question because I find it quite interesting as an academic, why are we associating this figure that, ostensibly is about lightness and laughter and fun? Why are we suddenly kind of seeing this dark side of it coming out, and people dressing up on Halloween as clowns, and we see it in horror films, and people saying that they're scared of clowns? There's even a word for that, and my theory, is that actually there is a dark side to the clown, and that is kind of becomes manifested. Unfortunately, what's happened is that a lot of people have just clung to that dark side of the clown, and it needs to be balanced. Clown is about balance. It's about redressing imbalance.
Yes.
So when there's too much frivolity and escapism, we need to come back to root ourselves and address the shadow, right? And when we get too rooted and ground down by the shadow, we need to redress that by returning to the light and finding that balance. So of course there's dark clown, but that's just one side to the clown. And I feel like there is a change happening right now, Indy, where more and more people are coming to clown and seeing it as a positive thing and not having so much of that fear around it, which is great.
Yeah, I think that the nuance is while we need to appreciate and value the sacred clown, the sacred trickster, honor that energy, we also need to come together and be more receptive and open and actually lean into the bureaucracy, right? Because, I don't know if anybody's ever read The Banality of Evil, but you can look it up on YouTube and just look up the cliff notes of that. But we need to recognize that when we're not involved in the systems, when we're not involved in the bureaucracy, when we're not bringing playfulness and creativity and out of the box thinking into the bureaucracy, then the bureaucracy becomes really toxic and almost evil to an extent. Yeah. And so we need to actually be a little bit more intentional about going to the places that we don't want to go. Trust me, Barnaby, I don't want to go to the policy meetings. I don't want to go to the government meetings. I don't want to go, they're really boring, and it's mostly old people, and so no disrespect to old people. I love old people, but we need to recognize that when we don't show up in those spaces, then it errs towards toxicities, right? And so we also need to cultivate this energy and bring it into the space, because that's really critical. I can't say that enough. I can't be the only one showing up and make a difference. It's going to take a bunch of us to show up into each of these spaces. You don't need 1 million people to show up. Actually, there's so few people showing up to these government spaces. You actually literally don't need a bunch of people. And I don't mean voting. I mean going to your the local public meetings that happen every month or every week. Just starting there. Maybe you guys can do a comedy show before that or after that. Improv comedy before, after. Laugh a little bit. Smoke some weed before you go in or something. I don't know. Whatever you need to do. Maybe afterwards laugh. Do a comedy show afterwards, or decompress afterwards by laughing together. But go and show up to these policy meetings. Go and show up to these bureaucratic meetings, because there is actually, that's where we make the change systemically.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can start doing that in the context that you already move in, I think, right? You don't have to go into places that you don't normally go into to do this. At work or I live in a co-housing community, and I mean, in itself, it's a good thing, but it gets very serious and quite bureaucratic and quite stressful and tense, and there's a lot of conflict. So when we have difficult meetings, I bring the clown into those meetings, right? I just literally get into my clown gear and I go in and maybe maybe there for the whole meeting, but maybe for 15 minutes at the beginning to kind of just soften,
I always bring this guy in. Hello? Hello? Hey, it looks like a bunch of dinosaurs are running things over here. Excuse me. You guys aren't laughing enough. You're going to go extinct if you don't laugh. Hey, hey, you.
I love it. Dino wisdom.
Dino wisdom. Actually, I'm going to plug. I actually, with a brother of mine, we have we're a team called the Brothers Grin, and we wrote a children's book called Ben the Laughtersaurus. Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely want to plug that, because that's something.
What's the name of it again, Indy?
The Tale of Ben the Laughtersaurus.
Ben the Laughtersaurus. Okay, I'm just going to find the a link.
Yeah, sure, please. And yeah, I mean, I've had teachers get the book. It's in bookstores, but even when I go and read it in places, it's really great to see. We've also had pediatric hospitals buy the book and are sharing it with the patients and the families. So we wrote the book with the context of how can kids learn about laughter the right way, and using laughter the right way, not laughing at people, but laughing with each other and cultivating laughter in their lives and getting permission to laugh. Because I don't know about you, Barnaby, but when I used to laugh in elementary school, I would get shut down. They'd be like, don't laugh. Be quiet.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know how that's good for anybody, telling kids not to laugh. That's literally how we develop. By the way, Barnaby, did you know that we laugh more as children and babies? And while we're laughing, we're generating our bodies. So our nervous system is generating at a rapid rate. Our immune system is generating at a rapid rate. So laughter might be actually generating and regenerating our bodies. So that's something really important for us to think about, that actually silliness and laughter is actually a health right. It's actually a right to our health.
Yeah. So it's kind of like an abuse of human rights to shut down laughter.
Literally, we're like, hey, Stop that. Really quickly, Barnaby, can I share like a really quick poem that I wrote?
Yeah, please. That would be a great way to close, maybe.
In preparation of this. Is that cool?
I'd love that. Thank you.
All right. Ready? You guys ready out there? All right, folks out there. All right, cool. The meeting starts in silence in a net of cosmic silk, where the moon is pouring moonlight out like honey-colored milk. But look beneath the makeup and the masks of every land. 1,000 different tricksters take a brother's painted hand. The Harlequin of Italy in diamonds, black and red, shakes hands with the Nana Bozo as the forest floor is spread. They're weaving back the fabric that the greedy tore away, turning midnight's carbon shadows into neon-colored play. Then a blue-skinned boy comes dancing with a peacock in his hair. It's Krishna, the Mukhin Chor, with a playful divine flair. He stole the butter of the world to keep the tyrants lean, and plays a song upon his flute to turn the deserts green. With a wink, and he starts the Leela, the great holy game, to show us that our problems are but illusions by another name. He splashes holy water from a bucket made of gold, healing social fractures with the story ancient told. Oh, we're the secret order of the squeaky rubber nose, from the tundra to the tropics where the wild orchid grows. With a pie for every problem and a ong for every pain, we're dancing in the sunshine and we're juggling the rain. From Krishna to the raven, we are mending what is torn, the funniest salvation that was ever born. The Tengu of the mountain brings a fan to clear the smog, shh, while the coyote tricks the desert into blooming through the fog. In the favelas and the gutters, where the Vidushaka stands, he turns the heavy shackles into ribbons in his hands. They don't need a manifesto or a speech upon a stage, just a slip and fall on ego to unlock the metal cage. They're planting seeds of slapstick in the cracks of every wall until the concrete structures of the cruel begin to fall. The Heyoka walks backward while the jester rings his bell, while Krishna spins the cosmos like a plate, and all is well. A Pueblo clown is eating ash to show us what we waste, as the divine flutist adds a drop of nectar to the taste. Oh, we are the secret order of the squeaky rubber nose, honk, honk, from the tundra to the tropics where the wild orchid grows. With a pie for every problem and a honk for every pain, we are dancing in the sunshine and we're juggling the rain. From Krishna to the raven, we are mending what is torn, the funniest salvation that was ever born. A flute melody weaves through the sound of a bicycle horn. The raven steals the sun to bring the light back to the blind. The blue boy leaves a flower in the pockets of the kind. The world is breathing deeper now.
What a beautiful poem.
Thank you.
Was that is that yours, Indy? You wrote it? Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I was saying, I was researching all these different clowns, and I was just thinking to myself that, you know, how do we cultivate, you know, a respect and honor to them and a grace to them? How do we bring them into our spaces and sacred spaces? And how do we play music to honor them? And you know, like I said, I brought up Guru Nanak, and in my tradition, in our spiritual tradition of Sikhi, music and poetry is how we cultivate a relationship to the divine. It's in that poetry, it's in that music that we cultivate that relationship. It's in that, we call it the nod, right? There's like within the music, within the poetry is actually how we cultivate a relationship to that divine sound that's beyond sound, right? And so, yeah, just like for me, I couldn't help but honor this gathering with a song and a poem. I mean, if we could have some background music, that would be awesome. But hopefully, people heard the divine melody playing behind what I was saying. And I really respect everybody who's a clown on this call. Everybody who shows up in their own way to represent the sacred clown, the holy fool, the trickster, the sacred trickster. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Barnaby. Thank you to the real tricksters and clowns that have existed in the past, the mythological ones, but also the real ones, the people, the men, the women, the people in between, the two-spirited tricksters, all the different people that have come before us, the ones who exist now today, Bartami. Thank you to all of them that show up in all the ways, whether they show up in the hospitals and in the schools, they show wherever they show up in the political systems, right? The entertainment. But let's also respect and honor the future ones, because for this society to continue to exist, for culture to be able to continue to regenerate, to compost, we're going to need them in the future as well. So I just want to honor the ancestors, the current ones, and the future ancestors, the different clowns, the sacred fools, the sacred tricksters. Thank you to all of them. And really, really, and like great gratitude, great prayer that our community, our sacred society of clowns is honored and respected and cultivated, and that we eventually have an abundance of this energy that's cultivated and respected in our communities and cultures.
Indy, beautiful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here with us today and sharing some really incredible, broad, sort of diverse perspectives on this topic that really got me thinking. And I can see from the comments in the chat how stimulating and inspiring it's been for everyone.
Oh yeah, definitely. And by the way, I also want to honor my this is my guru right here.
Yeah.
His name is Chintulal. So he's been listening the whole time. He's been whispering and telling me things. You just can't hear it, but I mean, it's been really helpful that he's been watching my back. Yeah. And he also keeps me the most in check. So it's really helpful. I'm just a puppet. He's the master. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Guru. Oh, and I'm gonna Chardicala. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Indy. Thanks everyone for watching.
Let's food it out.
And let's see you again. Let's see you again next week.